Hi, it's Willie B at SEMA with Tim from Arrington Performance. Now, you guys, I'm absolutely loving the fact that I'm sitting here with Tim from Arrington Performance because they're nostalgic. If you look up Mopar builds, if you look up Gen 3, the 5.7, these guys are doing all the things that we've wanted to do for a number of years. These guys are leading the charge. So thanks for your time, my man.
Hey,
thanks for coming in.
Here. Thanks, Willie.
Now, tell me a little bit about Arrington Performance, especially for us Mopar guys.
Well, yeah, you probably remember the Arrington name from Arrington Engines. So
yes.
Made hundreds and hundreds of NASCAR engines when Chrysler was in NASCAR.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine being this company who made all these NASCAR engines and all the winners and winning the Dodge Truck Series, and then they pull out.
Yes.
Yeah. Bankrupt. They stopped doing NASCAR.
I know.
So what are you going to do with a company like that? Well, we had all these engine builders with all this equipment. So Gen 3 Hemi was just, coming on strong and getting into that second generation of the Gen 3 Hemi.
Sure.
And let's go be experts in that, and let's figure out what'll work for the street crowd.
And this is really kind of a new market if you look at it, just in the sense that Chevrolet had LS, and for the longest time the aftermarket support was there. Ford, even on the Mazda, the 4.6, and even now on the Coyote, had kind of an aftermarket support. For the longest time, Mopar really didn't have the aftermarket support or a way to get in and mess with, fuel management, mess with timing, any sort of that.
We lost a whole year in 2011.
Yeah, man, yeah. And you guys, meaning Arrington, really have led the way in being able to do that and really create some unbelievable big-time horsepower, big-time torque packages. So explain that a little bit. What happened and how were you guys leading that charge?
Well, the tuning was horrible for years, but we got some of the best tuners for Mopar for modern Gen 3 Hemis on staff. And so they just have at it every time there's a new generation, and we go in and just learn everything about how all the computer controls work. And then I got the engine builders, so we created a whole line of strokers and forged rebuilds, because you can't add more than about 80 or 100 horsepower to that 6.4 Hemi. Without it kind of giving up on you.
Yeah, so. And that was always the Achilles heel. You add a lot of boost to those platforms and they go pop. Well, Arrington's really aggressively went after that and really upped what a lot of us even believed was capable out of that Hemi.
Yeah, and we decided that the 426 needed a new birth. So you take that 392, stroke it to 426, every moving component replaced, forged, and so you drop that 426 in any of these modern platforms, add a supercharger, you're up at 700, 800, 900 horsepower really quickly and easily. All
right, now let's talk about that platform in general. So you have a 392, awesome car. It starts out at, back in the day when they first came, it was 470 squared up. So you had 470 horsepower, 470 foot-pounds of torque. That was their big bragging rights. Now, not bad, right, on an NA car, naturally aspirated. Well, you get into the Hellcats and so forth, 700 horsepower. Well, these really are the guys that started that. Let's start with the internals. Where do you guys start with the internals compared to a bone stock 392?
So you take the 392, you certainly have to have the forged pistons.
Sure.
We also marry that up with the forged rods. The 392 already comes with a forged crank.
Okay.
Occasionally we replace that if we want to go really high horsepower.
Okay.
We replace the bearings because you got to have higher precision at the kind of horsepower that we work with. We'll even replace the main caps and align them to make sure that you can get the high spin and the high horsepower once it's
the
boosted.
old balanced and blueprinted sort of scenario, right?
And then we'll port the heads. Usually replace the gaskets because they got to hold up to more power.
Wow.
Replace the springs because they've got to run more power and tougher
So
run.
you can imagine what they're doing at Arrington from all the internals, talking rods, pistons, all right, porting the heads, all the valve train, all of that gets, well, beefed up, if you will, when it comes from these guys. And now you can start to understand why, 500, 600, 700 plus horsepower is so easily capable in their platforms. So the old 426 Hemi, or the old 426 rebirth, if you will.
Right.
How happy did that make consumers when they got to put that 426 label back on their Challenger?
We've done custom labels. We've done our own 426 labels. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then, you're getting all that power too.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the platforms that you have here. I saw what you guys were doing with the CUDA. It's fantastic, by the way. gorgeous car, a road runner and so forth. So for guys like myself who have a bunch of these old B bodies, or you got a Challenger sitting in the garage with a 318 in it, and you get spanked by every Hyundai out on the road, these guys can really take it from beauty to beast.
All respect to everybody that puts an old big black stroker in those.
Sure.
Anybody that wants to go through and get one of those engines to work and reliable, huge amount of respect. But we're putting together a package. You just drop it in place of that with a Gen 3 Hemi, and now just drive for 100,000 miles. Not worry about it.
And not just that, you're getting the big power that you would have from an old big block with a real nasty valve train that you really couldn't drive much further than around town, right? And now they have that much power, same amount of torque, if not more, and then you back it up with a 6-speed, right? And all of a sudden, you got 100 to 150,000 mile, resto mod out of your 69 or 70 Dodge Charger or Roadrunner.
A lot easier to supercharge too.
Yeah.
We created this 700 horsepower version.
Yeah.
Take your old 71 Cuda and blow away that Hellcat.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I love it. So tell me about some of the builds and platforms that you're showing off here at SEMA.
At SEMA, we've got 71 Cuda in the Mother's Wax booth.
Okay, and it's a gorgeous car.
And then we've also got a 2014 RT that is in the SEMA garage booth because we got that through California emissions. So you can add 100 horsepower to a Challenger and still pass California emissions.
And those are the toughest restrictions when it comes to emission laws out there. So you tack on 100 horsepower and you still pass emissions, that's definitely doing something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about, let's say that Cuda. What did you do? What kind of car was that? A small block, big block car? And what do you have in it now?
Well, I have the one that is here, I don't know what it came with, probably a 440.
Okay.
But it's a Magnuson supercharged and has I think it has 426 in it.
Yes.
And so, it's putting out 750 horsepower to the wheels, something like that. And then they made it an awesome, beautiful job on the outside too.
Yeah. We're talking 700 horsepower that's drivable and manageable. Not like, the old days where you'd have it for a small RPM range and you're done and you had to put the car on a trailer. We're talking 700, 800, 900 horsepower out of a basically plug and play system. What they're doing at Arrington is they're creating entire packages. So you have the Hemi, the transmission, all the wiring harnesses and stuff all there for you could buy in a package, where that was just 5-10 years ago unheard of for the Mopar side.
We'll even take the Chrysler PCM, so you're truly running the OEM fuel control, the OEM setup for the whole car.
Wow, so that was absolutely unheard of just a number of years ago, and now there's different packages. So can people come to Arrington Performance and say, all right, I want a 5.7 or I want a 392 and I want to make about 500 to 600 horsepower, and I want to put it in a 70 Dodge Challenger.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely capable, and it's all available from Arrington, right?
We got a 70 Roadrunner package back at the shop. We got a 73 International Scout 2.
Wow.
We're going to put a 500 horsepower 6.4 crate engine in, but with all of the wiring harnesses and everything needed to hook it up.
That's amazing. And let's
usually have to do some welding still.
That's okay.
It's
but the efficiency of these newer Gen 3 Hemis compared to the old monster beefcake wedge motors of the 426 Elephant motor, right, is so much above and beyond what you could imagine. If you could imagine a big block with a big nasty valve train hitting licks at the stoplight, we can't drive that thing, get any kind of gas mileage or efficiency out of it. Whereas now with Arrington, you could put these packages into your cars, into your B-bodies, your old hot rods, and literally drive them every day, still get 15 to 25 miles per gallon according to how you drive it, and all the performance you could ever imagine.
Right.
And let's start talking about these packages. Can you go and just get the motor? Can you get motor, training, everything you need, wiring harness, plug and play, go?
Every build is a little bit different, so we usually end up talking through, do you want the 5.7? Do you want to go all the way to the Forge 426? Are you going to turbocharge it or supercharge it?
Yeah.
But we sort of have our base packages. The 6.4 drop-in with the NAG 1 transmission and the wiring and PCM for that is one set package to go.
And when you guys were creating this and doing this, how was the aftermarket welcoming if you will, the rise of the Hemi and the availability to actually get in there and tune it and make it, fundamentally sound and efficient for newer platforms?
Well, we're still in the transition phase. For the newer platforms, it's off the shelf now. You just get in and go. We're in a transition phase for these Pro Touring and the rest of the mods, in that people are just starting to realize that you can do it at a lower budget. You don't have to have the $200,000 Pro Touring everything.
Yeah.
You can have your own garage project that somebody likes to do body work. They're doing their own paint work and restoration, but they don't really want to mess around with the engine reliability. Put those two together, and that's just emerging. The folks that have done it so far have been the ones that have been really determined.
Yes.
Last year was the Detroit Speed 69 Charger here,
Yeah.
and they were determined to do the whole thing, but it's our engine package in there.
That's great.
So,
and
people are coming along.
That really does make it so much easier, because for us Mopar guys, just having the availability to do that, to grab a 5.7 or a fully built 392, stroked out to a 426 Hemi, putting down big horsepower, we weren't able to get in there and get the wiring harness and be able to tune on it like you can nowadays. And like these guys have created these entire packages where you just go there, talk to them, right? Tell them what you're going to make and the application is for, and they'll send you something ready to go.
Right.
And not only that, but they'll test it on the dyno. When you get the motor, it arrives with your dyno sheet.
Absolutely.
Correct? So
Yep.
some of the horsepower packages you've been able to put down, they're similar to, say, the older LS packages, right? So as you guys know, for LS, there's all kinds of companies that do that. Arrington's the main man for all things Mopar. So let's talk about some of those packages. If somebody wanted a 450 horsepower package, that's pretty simple and easy, right?
Right. That one, you'd almost sell them a crate engine.
Right? Yeah.
But usually they're coming in asking for about 600, and so we might give them a 448 stroker.
Okay.
That's about as far as we've been able to take that 392 block.
Okay.
And that'll get you almost 600 horsepower crank.
Wow.
And the other way to do it is you take the forged 426 stroker and you put a supercharger on top of it. We do Magnuson and Whipple and ProCharger. And those will come in at 600 to 650. Just drop in.
Isn't that nuts to be able to do that nowadays when you couldn't just a number of years ago? And again, it's really headed up by the guys at Arrington Performance, who got their start in NASCAR. And then when Mopar kind of pulled out of that, they're like, what are we going to build? Well, hey man, there's a huge aftermarket hungry for those Hemis. And these guys are, supplying a hell of a menu for us in all kinds of variations. So,
including trucks, for example.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So we just did a Ram 2500 truck. So it comes with a heavy-duty suspension and a 6.4 liter 392 Hemi, but nobody's done the tuning to drop a supercharger on there.
Right.
And we just did, and it goes out the door with 100 horsepower more.
And it's emissions legal.
Yeah.
That's impressive, man. So again, all kinds of great things. How do people find out more details, info, if they want to come to your website and so forth, and maybe hit up a shopping list, if you will?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said shop, because it's shophemi.com.
There you go, shophemi.com.
Yeah.
Shophemi.com. And I'm telling you, man, they're doing wonderful, great things. They have some huge stuff at SEMA this year. Now, tell me a couple things about Brenton. Have you got to work with us in the past? Are we working together in the future? Because I'm hoping one of those Arrington motors finds its way in maybe a Dodge on two guys, or even Carfix, maybe even one of my old Dodges or Mopars in the garage. I'm okay with that.
I certainly hope so. We actually have a Mopar 11 in-house, the 2011 Dodge Charger with the limited edition Mopar looks and the blue stripe and everything. And I think that one needs a new engine. But you also said you have one that needs a new engine.
Oh, yes, I do.
So,
yes, I do.
Let's definitely keep talking.
Arrington Performance, shophemi.com. And again, man, Tim from Arrington, thank you guys so much. When it comes to the world of Mopar, you got to go with Arrington.